This is implementing multiple bank accounts. This program is an extension of task 5.2, which I covered in the video multiple bank accounts. My name is Chris Lee and my student number is S224817878. In terms of what we did for refactoring, we have added a bank class. Now, instances of the bank class are going to store a list of accounts. So we are no longer hard coding or creating our own instances. This is now passed over to the users to do. When they create an account, they are going to provide a name and an initial balance. From there, they'll be able to interact with the deposit, withdraw, and transfer methods. We have added method overloading as well, namely in the bank account and the bank class, sorry, and that's down the bottom here. So this is the execute transaction method, and we have 3 different options. So this is going to be our compile time polymorphism, if you've watched the polymorphism video. And the idea here is the compiler is going to know which version of the method to execute by the parameter passed to it. So the user will pass some instance of deposit transaction, for example, and we will execute the execute method from the deposit transaction class. Now that has the same behavior that we saw in the previous video. And so the idea there is we're going to check if the transaction has been performed yet. And if it hasn't, we can move through and perform that transaction. And then the last thing that we're going to cover for this video as well is how a user is going to, how the finding accounts sort of functionality behaves, especially when they're using the deposit, withdrawal, or transfer methods. As a quick demo of how this program works, program will start, we'll add an account, we provide a name, and we provide an initial balance. Then from there, if we wanted to use one of these methods, say deposit, we would provide a name here. Now, the value that we pass here has to match the value stored in the name property. And if it does, we'll be able to deposit some amount. And that'll be the same for all of those. For transfer, the same functionality that we had in the last video is still there. So we're creating a sort of hard-coded transaction in a way. And so the user will have to have 2 accounts created there if they want to use that one. They'll need a source and a destination account. In the next version of the program, the transactions aren't so rigid. They'll register for withdrawals and deposits and stuff like that. But alas, this is what we have so far. So onto the debugger now. We create that same instance of the transaction class. It's stored to null at the moment because we haven't registered any transactions. Here we initialize a new instance of the bank account class. Now, like we were talking about, this is going to store a list of accounts. It's going to begin empty because we don't have any accounts in there. So that means if the user was to try and use something like withdraw or deposit first off, they wouldn't be able to. We'll add an account, similar to how we did in that very quick demo. Like that, funny balance. Now that the user has added an account, we'll be able to start using some of the other methods. So for example, say we wanted to print, we would move through here. Now for do print, we come over here, we have a find account method that returns an account object. So to do so, it is going to create an instance of the account class and set it to the result of the GetAccount method call that we're about to make. First, what we'll do is prompt the user for an account name. This is what I was talking about earlier, where the string that they provide needs to match the name property. In the bank class, we have the GetAccount method. Now, this is what actually iterates through the accounts list. So we're using a for each loop again. Now, in my previous video, I sort of covered this. This is the use case for this, at least anyway, is sort of when we're not interested in an index or modifying any of the elements. So we just want to loop through all of them. As we loop through them as well, this is the comparison here using the equals method and the name that we provide and the name property. In the event that it finds one, it returns the account. If it does not find a match, it will return null, and this represents that an event where we don't have a suitable object to return. The check is here. This is how we just sort of handle the event where it was null. We can just let the user know that we didn't find one, and it'll reprompt for another name. In this event, we provided a matching name, so that was fine. We're returning the account object. We set the account we set the text in the console to green, and then we use the print method, which will move us over to the account class. This is going to return the value of the name property and the balance private instance variable. There we go. So that was us for there. I will do a demonstration of the deposit method now. So we'll select 2. Calling DoDeposit, we pass it an instance of the bank class. And the same sort of behavior here. So we create an instance object of the account class called account, or ACC rather, and it will be set to the result of the find account method. The find account method is just up here. This is going to return our account object, and it'll do so by calling the GetAccount method. So we give a name for the account that we want to deposit money into. It iterates through the accounts list in the bank instance. Now I provided a correct name, so it will return that object for me. Now I provide some amount that I want to deposit, say 250. We are here creating a instance of the deposit transaction class called new transaction. And we are going to pass in the account that we returned earlier and the amount that we're wanting to deposit. This is going to move us over to the deposit transaction class. There's our constructor. Down here, the color goes to green again. This is just so it's a little bit more legible. And then we have the new transaction execute method. So this is going to take us over to the deposit transaction class. And this behavior is what we saw in the previous one. So the transaction hasn't been performed yet. So we're going to say that we're performing it now by setting the executed property to true. We'll call the deposit method from the account class. And then in here, we're actually interacting with the balance variable. We return true. The operation was successful. We set success to true. And then we're just going to print the result of the details of the transaction, And that should be in my console now. And we can see it there. Thank you.